Okay, it's Friday afternoon, and it's, what is this, the 11th of May, and it's coffee break on Friday afternoon, so it's a bit quiet. I thought I'd use that chance to give you a bit of video and some audio. This is very exciting to see. This is the beginning of them starting to weld up the bulkheads that go along as each of the frames at 1 meters. Some of them, of course, are just open and empty, but other ones like this are filled in, and so you have to have these ribs welded in to give them strength. You'll start to see how things work for this. I think this is frame number 14, so a little bit aft of the mid section of the boat, and this one I think is frame number 9. And so that one's a bit further forward. You can see a doorway there opening in this one, and you see how they're welding on right now, just tack welded in, but these are welded in along there, and then a piece on the base for supporting that. So still got piles and piles of aluminum that we're slowly starting to use up, and you can see how that's working. On the deck that you've been seeing, if you've been watching along on the videos, you can see that they've started to tack in the stringers that run lengthwise or longitudinally along here. This is the aft end of the boat here, and remember, things are all upside down, so we're looking at the starboard side over here, even though it's on the left-hand side right now. And this is the opening that you'd walk through to get down into the engine room and workshop area. That's the big lift-up hatch over top of the engine room itself right there. And you can get an idea of how these stringers work, and you can see that this is where one of these frames is going to go across. So these are all just loosely tacked in here right now, just to hold them in place, and just lining them up here with felt pen marks where there wasn't marks from the cutting machine, which there are in most other places. And then what you'll see in the coming weeks is starting to take those bulkheads and those frames and some of these pieces up here and lay them in place. So they've been busy welding up all of these frame components here. The frames are pretty much true to their name. They've got kind of a four-sided framing effect to them, and these are pieces that will ultimately be welded up together as well. What they're doing for the most part right now is welding in these support structures here, so you can see how essentially band aluminum, bar aluminum is bent to shape to match the profiles coming out of the models, and then these are tack welded along here that you can see, and just to hold them in place, these little pieces here just make sure it stays at 90 degrees so that they don't move around. And as we've been saying way back in the beginning, everything is pretty much just tack welded at this stage, and that's because you want to take the accuracy that comes from all of these slots when everything starts getting assembled in this truly ginormous jigsaw puzzle here that's going to be the boat. And so right now the tack welds are just enough to hold everything in place, and then you start lining stuff up, such as all of those stringers that you saw back there. Each stringer is going to pass through one of these grooves here as it goes along, so you can get the idea of how everything's going to kind of self-correct itself and line up, and hence the spot welding at this point. And then when it's all pretty much assembled, you can check for the accuracy in a couple of places, make sure everything's gone the way it's supposed to, and then start doing quite literally kilometers and kilometers or miles and miles of welding that needs to get laid down. It's a bit dark in here, but Mr. Gardner's up in here. I've been working on him a little bit. We've got him unpacked, and we've got the engine hoist here that you need for lifting these parts off, because they are truly heavy, heavy, heavy parts. I've stripped the engine back down a little bit now, or at least started on that process to take her all apart and get it further cleaned up, get it blasted, get it painted, get it polished, and then start putting it all back together again. And here's a bit more of a shot for you. Just again, you can just see that we're just slowly cleaning up all of the individual pieces, of which there are thousands of them altogether, and getting them ready to be welded up. So that'll give you the update for this week, middle of May.